Welcome home, neighbors, to Community Hall Live. I think episode 292 of our the My DVC Points podcast, because we are going to be combining the shows. I've got to put out a show on the Community Hall Live podcast, asking everybody to subscribe over to My DVC Points if they're already not, just because we're going to be merging the streams and doing a little bit of homework here and tidying. Also, if you guys are listening to the podcast edition to this and you're not subscribed to us on Facebook and YouTube, primarily YouTube, please go ahead and do that. YouTube.com/MyDVCPoints. Facebook groups recently had a change where they quit allowing us to stream our shows into our groups, which is really kind of a bummer because we spent the last 5 years building up some really solid groups on Facebook, and now we're not allowed to reach them with our live shows. So please follow us on YouTube, and let's get on with the show. So in today's show, I've got our very own Andy Berry, and we're trying out a new monthly show called Addonitis with Andy Berry. So let me add him to the show. How you doing today, Andy?
Hello, my friends. How are you today?
I am doing great. And we're just doing a live show today and talking about Ask Us Anything. So we're going to be talking a little bit about Addonitis, because that's what we're calling this series, is Addonitis with Andy. And if you guys got Addonitis and you want a diagnosis, he's your man right here. Andy Berry in the flesh. So, Andy, let me ask this fun question. Now, you have helped thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of DVC families by now. What's some of your favorite Addonitis stories? Like, does anything come to mind?
I've had some real good ones. I've had a couple, two that come to my mind. I got a call one afternoon. It was about 3 years ago. It was like 4:20 in the afternoon. So that would have been, and I was in California, so that would have been like 7:20 on the East Coast. There's a gentleman from Louisiana. He says, "You got to help me." I said, "What's going on?" He said, "It's my wife's birthday today, and we're going out to dinner, and I didn't get her anything." I said, "So what are you thinking?" He says, "Well, I found a 50-point listing that we should get." And I said, "Okay, let's do it." I put together a little certificate that said "Happy Birthday," and I put her name in it and said, "This is being provided to you from your lovely and adorable husband." So that was one of the best ones I had ever had. I actually had one last week too that came up. It was kind of funny. I had gotten a referral from a family in Louisiana, and they called to refer their daughter on to buy her initial membership. And I had taken care of the daughter. I called back to tell the mother that everything was going well, and she says, sorry, I almost used the name. My husband and I just found a listing at Hilton Head, and we want to buy it. And it was like a 50-point listing, or maybe it was, actually it was a little less. It was 35 points. And so you never know when that stuff comes up. When I make my birthday calls on a daily basis, sometimes I get people that say, "Hey, we were just going to call you and add on," or you just never know when they come. But it's always fun to be out there and helping people. That's really what I try to do. I don't call it add-onitis. I call it helping. Teaching.
Yeah. The guy who missed his wife's birthday and scrambles. Now, did you get the offer accepted and all of that before printing the certificate?
Yeah, it was because it was a small listing. It was a full price offer only listing. I have another good one too. I just talked to this family last week. It was the husband's birthday. For Christmas one year, and this is going back. This is probably 4 years ago. It was like the week before Christmas, and the wife called me and said, "I want to add on for a Christmas gift for the husband, for the family." The next day he called me and said, "I want to add on points for the family." And I said, "The two of you probably should talk before you go any further, because you're going to end up with double points." It was so funny. Every time we talk, I always bring that up. It always comes up somehow.
So, yeah, he calls you saying, "Hey, I'm going to be sneaky and get a point for her." She calls you, "I'm going to be sneaky and get some points for him." And yeah, dude, it's a good thing you were ethical there, Andy, because you could have just made a double sale. You know what I'm saying?
I've known that family for probably 13 years. 13 or 14 years. And they purchased direct from me when I was at Disneyland, and they purchased a couple of our resale listings already. You asked about how many you kind of mentioned how many families I worked with. The last count, there was over 16,500 families in the last 13 years.
16,500.
Yeah. So, if you just say every family's got, 4 to its family contents. That's like 65,000 people.
That's just like mind blown, Andy. Like I mean, how many years have you been selling DVC now?
So I was at Disneyland for 9 years, and I just had my 5th anniversary at Resale Market. So a little over 14 years.
Yeah, wow, 14 years, 16,500 families.
Yeah,
That's like some crazy, man. You have like
it's about
you
100.
were Mr. Addonitis cure, I got to say. Like,
No, it's just fun. It just happens.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's I know you helped our family when we were getting ready to buy our
Yeah.
house in Florida and had to amputate a few and talk me off the ledge a couple times. So
Yeah. There's been a lot of families, and you know, Chad, you know this well enough, and a lot of people listening will know this too. Is I don't. This is not a transaction business to me. This is about learning what the
yeah,
family is looking for, what they need,
yeah.
what kind of help we can provide, and really being an advisor or a consultant or a partner to them. And I always tell people now when I call them or reach out to them, if they reach out to us, I say, I'm here to help you on this adventure. We're here to partner together with you on this adventure. And you tell me what you want to do and how you want to accomplish it. And I'll give you different suggestions and alternatives and things to think about. That's what we do best at the DVC resale market. All the agents are very, very good about being consultants.
Yeah, dude, that's the best way to do because nobody wants to walk away from this feeling like they've been sold something.
Yeah, no.
Everybody wants to walk away feeling like they've been served, right?
Yep.
It's like you want to come away from these transactions like with a relationship with the person, but knowing that this person heard you, they understood your values and what you're trying to get accomplished, and is a DVC expert and can lead you right to where you need to go.
Exactly.
Like how to navigate those waters. So,
and honestly, when I talk to a family, I love when they just keep asking questions, because that to me, it shows more in-depth knowledge of what they are trying to understand and what they're trying to uncover. Yeah. The other one that's always funny is when, we obviously we do listings and we do sales. I always enjoy when a seller calls me and says, "Hey, I'd like to pull my listing down. We've decided to keep it," because you know what that usually means. In about 6 or 9 months from now, maybe a year, they're calling me and they're saying, "Hey, we need more points." So that's another one that's always a pretty quick one that comes up too.
yeah, that's I guess that would be an interesting thing to track. How many people end up thinking they're going to sell and then reconsidering, and then because you were so cool about pulling it down, they're just
That
like,
happens
okay.
all the time. Maybe, I mean, I don't lose that many listings, but maybe it happens 1 or 2 times a month.
Yeah, I mean,
and sometimes you don't know right away. Sometimes it takes 12 months, 18 months, 2 years until you hear back from that person.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, it makes sense. It really does make sense. So tuning in, Mark Koppel, tuning in saying hi. Our numbers are really down, guys, because we can't stream to our Facebook groups. And that's kind of a devastating blow to us because we have literally spent 5 years building up the best DVC groups in all of Facebook. And now we can't stream shows to them. And it's a Facebook deal. They shut down all access to like third-party softwares coming into the groups. I guess some people were coming into groups and doing nefarious stuff. And we're just trying to stream a show to them and pull them into it and get them involved. But until StreamYard works all that out with Facebook and gets a new API up and whatever else, then I guess that's what we'll be dealing with. But Mark brings up a really good comment. He's 185 days until he goes home. And Andy, do you have your calendar going? Do you know when your next ABD is? Is that on the books?
I think it's, I was just counting it before. I think it's, let's see, June, July, August, September. So it's 134 days, I believe.
Oh,
somewhere
wow.
around 130 to 140 days.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, we're getting close.
So that's like 3-4 months away. Like it's
middle of October for 2 weeks.
A 2-week ABD?
Yes.
Oh, wow. You got to tell me about this one, Andy.
You know about it. We're going to Egypt.
Okay. So is there a continent you haven't?
Our bucket list for a couple of years. It's actually it was my anniversary gift to Jolie for our 20th anniversary a couple of years ago, and it was in the middle of COVID, and then DVC or ABD cut back and did not continue with the trips, and then we were supposed to go in March of this year, and then they had a little scuffle with Hamas and Israel, and I just said I didn't feel very comfortable going at that time of the year.
Yeah, I don't blame you as well. I'd be staying out of that neck of the woods as well. So, okay, now what continents have you not been to yet? Because I think that's the shorter list with an
It's
ABD.
only one left. Do you know which one?
I know Antarctica we got covered.
Yep,
It's probably Australia.
Australia. That'll be next year.
Yeah, because
We'll
I think you got me on that question once. So
we'll do 2 weeks. We'll go to Australia and New Zealand next summer, or next maybe summer, or maybe spring or fall. Whenever I'm told to go, that's when I'm going.
got it. Well, Gina is not feeling so well tonight, and she's preparing for her final day of school this year. So we don't have Gina. It's just me running the whole show tonight. So I'm gonna bring up my little screen share here of when I'm going home next. And so yeah. And the reason why we do these is most of these are open to meetups with people, or they're like group cruises or group things. And so we've got this DCL Duo cruise coming up in 21 days, which I am all checked in. I'm like set to sail, all that kind of fun stuff.
So that's the first trip to Lighthouse Point, isn't it?
Yes, it's the first public trip to Lighthouse Point. They're doing like a couple of media ones. And
is it a member cruise or is it a regular cruise?
No, this is right after the member only cruise. I don't think they're calling it a member cruise because I don't think they're going all out with swag and guest speakers and all that. But it is there is one right before us from DVC that they are direly trying to sell.
3 weeks. Wow.
Yeah, and so we've got 3 weeks.
It's aboard which ship?
I believe it's one of the classic ships, and I think it's the Magic.
Okay.
So, and then the next year in April, we're doing the other one, the Wonder, which would be down here at the 25, 313 days. So we've got that one covered. I'm gonna get two out, both of the classic ships off my list. But before that cruise, a bunch of us from the Mighty VC Points community has got Vero Beach booked for a couple days. Caleb's there, Gina's there, Frederica's there. A bunch of us have just decided to go hit Vero and then drive on down to Lighthouse Point for that cruise. And then my wait list came through, Andy, at like 32, 33 days out in advance. I mean, it just came through. Before I had to
for July 4th. Wow.
Yeah, it was like 3 nights, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So we check out on the 5th.
That's great.
And that's a great night to check out. It's a Friday because the point charts go through the roof on the weekend.
Yeah.
And so we have holiday, midweek, prime time. Couldn't believe it came through. And I did not get an email on that. No email whatsoever.
Interesting.
I just looked down and there's like points missing and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And then, so this is what's crazy. We've got Vero Beach. We're going to Lighthouse Point. We're going to Hilton Head, Universal Hollywood, Alani, Villas at Disneyland Hotel. And then finally, I'm back to Disneyland in 136 days for the Mighty VC Points VDH Grand Villa meetup. If you guys are in the area, we'll be providing snacks and having an open meetup. Shout out to Nick and Steve from our team over there. They've got a Grand Villa and they're hosting everybody. And so I think we're going to bring some food and have a little meetup there. So I wish you were in it. Wish you were back in California.
Oh, geez. 138 days. That's right about the time we're going away.
Yeah, that is. That's right before you would head out. So, and then 152 days till Gina's birthday celebration over here at the Copper Creek Cabins. So I think I'm listed on a reservation there because I got park reservations from somebody in the group that made them and said, hey, we're going to get you reservations just in case. So, but I didn't make them and it didn't take my 5. So I'm on the reservation, but I'm not staying there. I'll be staying at my own bed. I like my bed here. Yeah. And then we got that DCL Duo cruise coming back up.
You got a lot of stuff planned.
Yeah, it certainly is. It certainly is. And so let's jump back into our listeners here. And I've also got to sneak a night in over at the cabins at Fort Wilderness. And then I got to try to book December 4th for the new Poly Tower. I mean, I'm right here. I've got to book it, Andy. And I own Poly points. So the day that comes open, I've got 40 points that I saved from this year, and I'll borrow next year's if I have to get a room that night on opening night. That is my goal.
When do we think that is?
I think they're going to be dropping that thing for sale anytime now. It's because they have filed the regulations on it, and it should be dropping for sale any point in time now. And it's really scary because I want more points, but I don't need them. You know how that works? So
yes.
It's like I've only got 100 points there. And now that we've got this tower, I feel like I should be having more points. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. And we'll go ahead and stop that share and start to bring in some of our comments here from listeners. And this is our Ask Us Anything show with Andy at DVC Resale Market. And so let's come back over to the comments. And Jamie said she's here tonight. So woo woo. And then Mark says we need to try a meetup in December. Definitely another meetup. And Mark, I will bring working audio gear this time. Last time we tried to record a show and the equipment failed. And Carissa Explains Nothing explains, I got my first birthday call from Andy this year, and it was such a pleasant surprise. And Matt is tuning in on Facebook. And Jim Mason says, guys, why wasn't there more sharing of the opinion to recommend direct buyers break their points into multiple small contracts? I have always said that, Jim, from like days gone by. If you go to episode 100, mydvcpoints.com/100, we talk about it, and we're almost up to 300 episodes right now. So for me, I've been talking about it for a while. And
yeah, I'll tell you, anytime anybody came to visit with me at Disneyland, direct, anytime they were above 250 points, I always would do an investigative question about, you got 2 kids. Do you want to split this into 2 125 point contracts? Or you got 3 kids, you want to do 3 100 point contracts? Even when I sold 1,000 point contracts, I would always break them into smaller increments.
Yeah,
because you just don't know when you're going to sell, when you're in need or want to sell off.
Right. So like my polys are both 50 points. My Copper Creek is 50, 50, 50, 350s and a 75 because I ended up with 225 points there. But when I bought Disneyland Tower, I kept it 1-200. Probably should have divided that, but I also looked at it was like, this is the last points I'll ever sell due to the restriction. And so I just kind of kept it. It was just easier on the paperwork for that. But yeah, I would recommend 100, 150 point at the 150s at the most. And it would be about my recommendation because you want to be able to keep enough to stay grandfathered into the blue clause, right? It's if you need to scale back,
do that with 350 point contracts.
Yeah. Yeah. You could do it with 350 points, but you need to be able to stay above that number of whatever it was when you bought in. And so, because I have heard of like when Roxanne became a member, I think 50 or 75 was the minimum. And then she added on at Riviera and actually got a letter from DVC saying if she only kept one of these 75 pointers that she bought, she'd still be entitled to blue card benefits because she was grandfathered in. And she got it in writing from DVC, which that's something I would demand in writing if that's what they were going to tell me as well. So, and then Matt's coming in. We have got a meetup set for Kidani one night. I think we are going to Sanaa. If anybody's coming to town, you do not have to twist my arm to get me to meet you over at Sanaa. That is like a less than 20-minute drive from the house. And I will be there. And it's really like a mile or something. It's just like crazy, the path I got to take to get there. But I got to go all the way around the Animal Kingdom Park. And pretty crazy. So Randy Wiley says 122 days until a triple split stay. 2 nights at BLT, 5 nights at Poly, and 3 nights at Vero.
Ooh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, that does. It's like
especially if the Vero's at the end.
Yeah, the Vero at the end to really kind of sit down.
It's like a vacation from the vacation.
Yeah, it's a vacation from beating yourself up at Walt Disney World. 100%
in the heat.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. And then Jared says, I have a solid 26 at Poly. And I don't know if that's a 26 pointer or what, but and he's
26
saying this
days.
bread service better live up to the hype. Jared's also on my calendar for a Sanaa meetup over there as well. And Jim is saying you're the reason I split into 2 contracts, but I should have split into 5 because 50 is easier, better on the resale market than 130.
Yeah.
And this is his thinking 5 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
You do pay a little bit more in closing costs, but it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, it is. And this is like the met up at Sanaa theme night, because last time Randy was in town, we met up at Sanaa as well. And so that's a really good deal. And yeah, so we got our first question tonight here. And so NCA 123 Funny says, hello, question on 2042. Let's say they do a 15-year extensions on the 2042 and you purchase resale. If you have 150 points and they do the extension from Disney, are you now a direct buyer? Ooh,
that's a good question.
I would, this is going to be what Disney decides, not our opinion on it, but I'm not going to hold back on my opinion, just knowing that it's my opinion and it's pure speculation at this point in time, because we don't know. We don't know until Disney says that. But if you ask me, you now have bought a deed directly from Disney and it's a 15-year extension, because they're going to have to reissue your deed.
Yeah.
Of some point, some flavor, right? You are getting another deed from Disney direct at that point in time. I would think you're entitled to benefits.
Yeah, I think so.
But I only think they're going to do that at Old Key West. And
you don't think they're going to extend the other 5?
No.
What are they going to do?
My take on 2042, Andy, is Hilton Head and Vero are gone. There's just not enough demand for them. And they're going to take back all of that property. They're going to sell those resorts off for millions of dollars and pocket the money. And in terms of Boulder Ridge Beach Club and all of that, they're probably just going to resell 50-year contracts. So
interesting.
They
do
might
a refurb and then resell.
Yeah, they might do a refurb. They might make everybody who's doing it pay for the refurb and just, you know what I'm saying? You never know what they're going to do with that.
You don't think they do 25-year leases or 20-year leases?
They could, and it would be a new thing for them. And it could be part of this new Palmetto Trust that they're coming up with that they've been very secretive about that we don't know. But if you ask me, what they should do is come back into this and say, we're going to do 8 to 10 to 12-year leases. And they're points. They're not deeded real estate anymore. They're just prepaid vacation points. There's no deed to them. Get rid of all of this deed stuff and then make it, there's no resale, because you can't resell your points. I think that's what they should do to the product to make it, if they really want to kill off the resale market, Andy, that would be one way to do it. And it looks like they really want to get rid of the resale market based on the restrictions and everything else. So to me, that would be the way to do it, is to just be selling prepaid vacations for X amount of points. Here's the point charts. You guys can book them how you want to. If you need more, you can add on, as you book.
But you almost got to really ask the question is, have the restrictions helped them or hurt them?
I can't think of how it would help them at all, Andy. I really can't, unless they're playing a long game here with having availability within 60 days or something like that under the breakage rules. But even then, those people if they can't use their points, they're still going to book something at that resort and then put it up for sale as a guaranteed reservation. People aren't just going to sit there and let their points go to waste. You know what I'm saying, Andy? It's like you're going to book something and try to sell it and try to get some of your money back. So I can't think of any scenario where these restrictions have helped them other than the FOMO of you can't book any place with this.
But you almost got to sit back and think and said, if they didn't have restrictions, isn't the goal for them to get as many people in the rooms and in the parks as they can? Because they don't make money on DVC theoretically. Where they make it is when you buy a T-shirt for $28.99 that they pay $5 for.
Oh, I
Or you
think they
buy
make
a
plenty of money
churro.
on the management fees.
They're making
I
money on DVC, but not on the obviously not on the dues, but making it on the
Yeah,
on
I
the
think there's administrative fees and management fees and all of that stuff, and I think that's nicely padded. That there's no way that they're doing that as a nonprofit.
yeah. No, I agree, but
Like,
I'm just saying that if the goal was to really try and stuff the parks and the resorts, then the restriction hasn't helped them.
well, here's the thing, Andy. When you look at breakage on the budgets, every single DVC resort hits their 2 point whatever percent cap, and they're all capping out as to what Disney gives back to the condo associations, and everything above that Disney keeps.
Mm.
So they're going to give us the first 2% of our budget back. And then after that, anything that they sell, they keep.
Yeah.
And this is on rooms that we've already bought and paid for.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. So we've already charged the members for it. We've already made our money for it. We're going to give them back this little token, and then we're going to keep everything else.
Yep.
And that's kind of the way that works. And that's the breakage thing. So to me, like, the weirdest thing about all of these restrictions is they're going to tell, restricted Ray, look, dude, you cannot come back in and 7 months switch over to Saratoga. What you can do, though, is you can send your points over to RCI, and then we'll open up some Saratoga inventory for a non-member to stay on your points in RCI over at Saratoga. That's the crazy part about all of this to me. Like, that's the crazy part about it all. Is like, okay, if they're giving up because you never ever, from what I'm told from the people who come back in through II, they never can see Riviera Resort on there. But people are coming back in and turning in their points there. So, but if like it's 90% Saratoga, maybe some Old Key West every now and then that's coming up.
Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, maybe a little Animal Kingdom. Okay, they're giving up the big resorts. So why is that? You know what I'm saying? Why are they punishing that resale buyer? Right? That they can't even come back in and do this. That's the kind of the crazy part as well. So Ron asked, how do you think this Palmetto Trust will realistically play out in the future? We have no idea because they haven't told us anything other than it's going to allow some more flexibility with points.
And dues.
Right. And dues or whatever. That's like saying nothing, because if you look in the fine print, they can change anything in our contract at any point in time. So they could have done that anyways. I'm not really buying that deal. Right. I mean, I hate to be a conspiracy theorist on this, but that's kind of the way we see this is like until you come back out and tell us about it and you lead with your change and what you're doing, you open the door up for conspiracy theories. And, nip them in the bud, Disney. Lead. Okay? Tell us what the master plan is and why this is here. But no one will. And they don't. I don't know. I can't tell you. It's just like pure speculation. Yeah. So Gillian says, so I don't get it. Resale makes DVC a better product. If you're stuck with your contract forever, how's DVC any better than any other timeshare? Gillian, I'm with you 100%. I think that's what got me off the shelf, that this is not another scummy timeshare, is the fact that there's a vibrant resale market, a vibrant rental market. It's right here on property. It's like the world premier vacation destination for family. And up until the last few years, Disney was owning pop culture. So markets were really great and high, and everybody wanted to come here. And I think it made this product phenomenal. They're probably going to tell you it made it too good. We had to fundamentally break our product with these resale restrictions. That's kind of my take on it. It was so good and so on fire. What do you think, Andy?
The product is amazing. I mean, it's the most traveled to destination in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Hundreds of millions of families want to come there on a yearly basis. Mm-hmm. There's never enough villas or resort rooms to stay in. So it's got to be a very, very sound business. I mean, all the hotels on the international row are filled up too. And look at all the other timeshares that popped up as a result of Disney World.
They're all here, but they don't have the 98% occupancy that
No,
DVC has. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so that's why it's like I can't really buy when you talk to hotel operations and they're like, yeah, man, DVC is about a 98, 99% occupancy rate, which in the hotel business, anything over like 60, 65 is
yeah,
really good. To have 65% of your rooms sold on a nightly basis is really good. People are using these. Okay. If members aren't booking them, Disney is booking them at 60 days and getting the cash.
and getting the cash back. Yep.
Yeah. It's so people are staying here. Like it's a very viable hot product with a lot of market
There
demand.
would be some questions I'd have about, things like the bungalows at the Polynesian. Are those full every night? Are the cabins full at Copper Creek every night? Are the
Cabins,
three bedroom
cabins,
grand villas across all the resorts filled?
yeah, cabins, I think so. There's a few times when I've had points to burn or somebody said, hey, I have to cancel last minute and they're in holding. Chad, you can take them if you can find a Polynesian cabin. And I couldn't find them.
Mm,
Because I mean, I would have just went over there for a night, midweek, right? Anything. And I could not find an open availability in the Polynesian bungalows. So
mm.
I've tried a few times. Now I'm not saying that that's probably the rare exception that isn't sold out due to the point charts and the horns and the undesirability of being right there next to the TTC and the boat and all of that. But other than that, the rest of the DVC rooms, they're sold, right?
Cool.
And then Jared says, do you think we could see a day when Yacht Club, Swan, Dolphin, and the Reserve are all DVC? And Yacht Club, I think they've got a very viable, vibrant business there over at Yacht Club with conventions. And so I see the conventions over at Yacht Club like they're a cash cow for Disney, right? You need something for those medical doctors to come back in, pay top dollar for a convention center and rooms and all of that right there. If they ever lose the convention business somehow, maybe. And then for the Swan, Dolphin, and Reserve, those were all on 99-year leases. So at the end of the 99 years, when that property reverts back to Disney, could they make those DVC then? They probably could. They could either renew the leases to another hotel. They could do that. I think the story goes on those is it was back in the Eisner days, and he realized he needed more hotels on site, but they didn't have the capital. And so the solution was to lease the land out and let Sheraton, I believe, was the original company who did it before Marriott merged with them and bought them out. But do you see it any other way, Andy? Any other thoughts?
I don't think Yacht Club would ever convert. I agree with the convention business is too strong. Yeah. The Dolphin and the Swan is, those are basically third party run and operated. So I don't see them taking that over. I just don't think there's a market for that. Maybe the Reserve, who knows? I think those four are off limits.
Yeah, I think they got to run their lease. You know what I'm saying? At the end of their lease, none of us will be here. And, because the Reserve was just a 99-year lease and it's only like 2 years old or something.
Yeah.
So 98 years, I doubt very many of us will be here.
Good question, though, Jared.
Yeah, it's a great question. Great question. So Brian says, staying at the Poly for the first time next weekend. How does the studio there compare to Grand Flow? Do you have an opinion there, Andy?
I like the Polynesian studio because it sleeps 5 and you got the 1.5 bathrooms. So, I always tell people 2 people can get ready at once. If you got 2 kids, each of them get their own separate bed. It's just a little bit more space. I like the Poly better than the Grand Flow studio.
Than the classic ones. Yes, I'm with you on the classic ones, Andy. Now that new building, when I stayed there, I got one of the rooms that was like extended because there's these little turrets on the side of the building. And so if you can get one of those turret rooms that's got the extra sitting room in there, I'll give up the extra bathroom space for that extra touring because it's almost like it's its own little bedroom over there.
Yeah.
And you've still got a balcony outside of there and everything. So I can get a turret room, I'm going Grand Flow. If not, the bathrooms are a priority for me, and I'll take Poly. And I kind of like the vibe at Poly better myself. I'm just not going to lie. I'm kind of more of a Poly guy than I am a Grand Flow.
Well, you're more in the center of things. Well, I mean, they're so close together, it just almost doesn't matter, but whatever.
Yeah. Great question, Brian. And so Jim says, will the next DVC build be a tower and an existing resort, or you think it will be a new ground up build, i.e. Reflections locations? They have dusted off the building permits, and it looks like the Reflections is back on the table. So we'll see. I mean, I can't imagine them going forward with that, with having so many active resorts up for sale right now.
Yeah.
Because we're still years away from Riviera selling out, years away from Disneyland Tower selling out. The cabins are just not moving right now. And so it's like they're going to have a lot of inventory if they keep up this deal, right? They're going to be having to do some fire sales on some of this coming up. And then the new Poly Tower. Like it's,
and then you have Alani too. You forgot about that.
Yeah, and Alani is still alive and kicking. I mean, that thing will take another 10 years and probably still won't sell out. So it's yeah. And so Ron says, I saw an article today that Nelson Peltz just sold his entire position in Disney. Do you feel this is a positive or negative sign for the future of the company? Man, I think he looked at it and said there was a lot of hope for this company, and you can't fix what's fundamentally broken here until they start making good content again. And because everything revolves around content. Like they make great movies, people want to come experience the movies, that drives them into the parks, that drives them into the resorts, that drives them into everything else. Everything is content driven. And for the last 4 or 5 years since Endgame, the content's kind of been stinking up the joint. So I think Bob has got it right that they need to get back in the business of making great content again. And that will solve a lot of their problems. And so I hope, right? And I hope Tiana's Adventure is a huge success and is more loved than Splash Mountain was. I really, truly hope that that's the case. And that would do a world of good if it's that phenomenal and that endearing to everybody. So we'll see. We'll see. I got to play the optimist card here, Ron. And that's why I bought DVC, right? Because I am very long and optimistic on the company, right? So Jim says, I see the Reflections locations as the next DVC build and can tie into the new wilderness cabins. That very well could, Jim. They very well could merge all of those in the Palmetto Trust. They could make them part of the same resort. They could do all kinds of fun stuff to help the sales out of those cabins. And that would be just an amazing thing for their resale buyers to be able to go someplace other than the cabins. Because I'm not touching it because it's the only place you could go. It's just really, yeah. So just bare stuffs. We picked up our first contract last year, double points, 100 at $105 a point. Been thinking about adding on another home resort, but wasn't sure what would you suggest and thoughts. So I've got an audio podcast show dropping this week that talks about the factors that are coming back into your buying your next DVC resort. Andy, I think I sent you an email on that one as well. Let me see if I can pull that up in Google Docs, and I'll at least.
Yeah, when you sort of in response to this question, I always look and say, how are you going to use that second home resort? If you're going to bank and borrow points, now you got, depending on how many points you add on, but you're looking maybe 200 to 300 points every other year. That's a good, nice size pickup for 4 or 5 or 6 nights in a 1-bedroom or bigger villa.
Yeah, and just to give you guys a spoiler of the outline here, I'm like, there's really about 6 things to consider when picking your next home resort. And number 1 is the emotional connection of the resort. So are you making a buy where I want to stay? And like, this is an emotional thing. This is like part of your home, because welcome home. That's a legit thing, man. Disney nailed it with that slogan. And that's really a legit thing. people look at the years left on the contract, the price per point, because that will derive your current cash outlay. They look at dues. They look at predicted resale value of this. Some people are exit strategy buyers. I'm going to buy this and hold it for 7 to 10 years, and then I'm going to sell it. Well, if you're buying a 2042 resort planning on holding it for 10 years, you're going to have 6-7 years left when you're done with it. And what's it going to be worth with 6-7 years? Mm-hmm. And not a whole heck of a lot, because you're going to have still all the same closing costs in there as well. So you've got to be able to beat the cash price of the rooms at that point in time. And, it's diminishing value, right? Mm-hmm. And then the other thing that people look at is, what do I get at the 11-month window? And sometimes people will buy a resort here in Walt Disney World just to have something for when there's a Run Disney weekend or some event or something along those lines. But those are the 6 things. And then I kind of got 5 or 6 ways people combine those factors into different value systems. Buy where you want to stay, buy the most economical, short-term cash flow, total cost of ownership, dues over time, all kinds of things along those lines. We got a whole episode in the works coming out of it. I just pulled up my outline. So stay tuned for that on the My DVC Points podcast, and we will definitely go deep into that one. And then afterwards, I'm going to bring Andy back in. And so we're going to go back in and start looking for contracts that meet each of those 6 ones on some little mini lives like this. And we'll actually be fun. That's going to be fun, because I'm going to try as well. So just spare stuff. If there's something that you're thinking there, send me a note at mydvcpoints@gmail.com. We'll try to schedule you in with this, and we'll do a little shopping session with me, you, and Andy, and clarify values and do some things like that. And I think that's kind of the next level of content we're going to be looking at doing. And so Jared says, community question, am I the only one that takes the playgrounds into account when booking resorts? And no, if you go back to Shannon Ford's early content, she was all about the playgrounds, dude. But that's because her son Ryder was in that playground age. So now I think he's around 1st, 2nd grade. And so he's, kind of out of the small kid stage. So playgrounds still might be important, but I don't think they're quite as important as well. Because she was looking for, what's a dry playground option versus the wet playground options for the kiddie pools and splash pads and all that kind of fun stuff. Right. And so, yeah. I think that's a really fair question. Should probably do another episode on that with Shannon, recapping her research, because I think that's a really good question. And so Ed03 says, Peltz just wanted to break up Disney. It's a good thing that he's not involved anymore. Yeah, that could be.
Yeah,
it could be. Maybe it's a good thing that he's moved on. Yeah, you might have a point there. And Just Bear Stuff says that Boulder Ridge was their first contract, and also been regretting the Boulder versus Copper. We chose based on overall pricing. So yeah, you probably save $20-$30 a point if you bought it resale, because that's what you're saving these days on that as well. And then Jen says, you think that they will revisit the DVC offsite locations? Mm-hmm. Andy, you got more insight on this one than I do.
No, I mean, I thought maybe they do like a snow resort in something like Salt Lake City or somewhere
Denver,
around
there.
Yeah, but I don't think so.
Yeah,
there's enough draw.
Yeah, I think they were looking at doing a ski resort, and word got out that it was Disney, and they jacked up all the prices and outpriced them from their budget, and they pulled out of it. So I think that's the case on that. But that would have been an awesome use for DVC. I think they're done with it. I think they're just harder to sell. Hilton Head and Bureau are not keeping value with the rest of them, and it's really just a matter of the dues. And one of our listeners and core members of our community is a PhD in data science, and he's really done the math on sales price, dues, whatever. And he's like, man, the market is so efficient because it's about the same total cost to buy a 2042 resort as it is to buy Hilton Head and Bureau. The market has just corrected it with the price right now. Mm. So when he's kind of done all the mathematical geeky analysis on that. So yeah, but I don't think the offsite ones are panning out too well. They just haven't come back up. So, and then Anna says she bought her first resale contracts to villas at Disneyland and currently waiting for ROFR. And do you think DVC will be hard to book certain rooms even at the 11-month window? Once it gets fully declared, Anna, I think you're going to be in great shape there. So I think you're really going to be in good shape there with booking that, unless there's like Run Disney events, D23 weekend. You better either be walking that reservation or something along those lines, because the really super hardcore Disney people will be walking reservations to get D23 weekend on points and everything else. So other than those things, like if it's not Run Disney or a holiday or some big weekend, I think you're going to be okay.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. And then Brian Martin says he agrees that the content's fallen flat. There's been some content in the last decade they failed to capitalize on. Sorry for the coughs. Inside Out, Wreck-It Ralph, and Encanto would all be ride rethemes, and Universal having Marvel rights is killer, though. Yeah, it's funny. It's I went to a call center, my day job convention convention in Denver a couple weeks ago, and they brought in Lin-Manuel for the keynote speaker. And I so wanted to pull him aside, and everybody else wanted to do this. My message to him was, dude, make him build an Encanto ride and make sure it doesn't suck. Okay. Like that's your number one goal at this point in time. Get us an Encanto ride and make sure it doesn't suck. Right. Whatever you got to do, like pull your rights, do whatever, throw a fit, never promise to work with them again, but get us a really cool Encanto ride, Lynn, and you will be my hero forever. I'm telling you. It's but that's what I wanted to do. So one of my buddies call me Lonnie is here tuning in, and we've got to go roll Universal and Disney sometime, my friend. And Gillian says those playgrounds and splash pads are for quite small kids. No good if your kid is over 5 or 6, in my view. Yeah. And I think the splash pad would be okay. It's because I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I had fun playing around. I didn't get on the stuff because it's for 42 inches and under, but I had fun when we were in January at the Cebu Play one over at Riviera, because it's a heated splash pad. It's awesome. And it was January and we were living in Michigan at the time, and coming down here and playing in the splash pad that was heated was just pure gloriousness. Jen saying she loves the playgrounds. My kids used to love the one at Port Orleans Riverside. Jared saying, what's your number one hope or want for DVC in the next 5 years? And your number one concern or worry?
Wow.
I'll let you start with this one, Andy, because that's a good question.
Oh, that's a loaded one.
Yeah, that's
gosh darn. The want would be to I think it's get back to the core roots of the strong member satisfaction and restoring the welcome home feeling and making members feel special.
Yeah.
I think that's missing.
What I want, Jared, is over the top killer themed resorts that are DVC. Like, bring me traditional Poly, bring me Animal Kingdom, bring me Wilderness Lodge. Let's get back to that level of over the top theming. And I think we'll be running some home runs there, right? Yeah. Because you want something that's incredibly unique in your portfolio and to try new things and everything else there. So in that light, maybe the cabins are really a good thing to add into the portfolio because it's a completely different vibe and experience. And so maybe that's a good thing. I did that whole episodes where I'm like, here's why I'm not buying it. We heard back from some people and saying, hey, but here's what you're missing. Okay, maybe that's a really good thing that's there. And then my number one concern or worry is going to be oversaturation. Like, how many different resorts can you end up building here in Walt Disney World? It's, could we somehow build a resort and put it into some type of Palmetto Funky Trust program so that we could have timeshare points over in the internationals and go to the international points and still stay in a villa and it'd be DVC. That would be incredibly awesome. Like that would be just over the top awesome to be able to use my points at a fair value, not this jacked up higher than a studio cost per night for a hotel room garbage where you're trading them in and it's only direct points and whatever. Okay. That program is just like not good. And I'm talking about legit DVC programs where it's a reasonable point cost. That would be really cool in my opinion. And so Frank says, what the heck are those square rooms on the new Poly Tower? I don't know. I haven't really seen anybody publish the blueprints and floor plans for it. There could be double-decker rooms. I thought they were going to be for like a grand villa or something as to what they were, but apparently there's no grand villas. So maybe they're calling those the penthouse, even though they're not up at the top because they're 2-story open. Like, we don't know. It's going to be awesome whatever they do there. I'm excited and I'm positive about that. So, and then Chuck Stank says, Mr. Andy, the man that helped me just buy my first DVC contract. And so Jen says there's already resale at Disneyland Resort. You're looking at the guy who sold the first one.
There has been for months.
Yeah. It's been a few months now. And so there's already resale there. I mean, life situations change. This is a message that we have told everybody that listens to our show. You buy DVC, contracts you'll never outgrow, vacations you'll never outgrow. That's just not real life. Like, life happens.
Jen, we have 4 resale listings now, 2 150s, a 175, and a 200. And they're priced, the lowest one's 152, the highest one's 189 a point.
Yeah. So they're there. And so Frank is saying, what's your favorite DVC memory? And I'll go first on this one, Andy, and then we'll let you go up to bat on it. Because yours is probably ABD. But my favorite DVC memory is our very first stay. And at the time, I think my son was about 4. And I had a 6-year-old daughter and then like an 11-year-old daughter. So my kids were still small at that point in time and had really never been on a family vacation with just us. Because up until he was 4, all I heard from my wife is I don't want to travel with small kids. And, you know, when you have 3 of them, you're always in a small kid stage, right? So finally he hit 4, we came, and it was our first family vacation. And I remember going down the slides with him and playing in the pools with him and just having a really great time. And then my middle kid was just super excited as well. The older one was just on cloud 9 and like, oh my gosh, we get to come back here because this was her 3rd Disney trip. And she was like in love with the place at the time. So that's my favorite. Andy, what do you got for us? So
mine's a little bit different because I've been doing this now for 14 years and from a different perspective. But my favorite moment, my favorite memory is when I would meet with a family, or I talk with a family on the phone or on chat, and they want to become a member, but they just don't know how to do it. And we basically take them and hold them by the hand and show them how easy it is to do. And not only when they become the member, but when they come back and visit you. When I worked at Disneyland and they came back and visited me and say, you know, we would never have had these kinds of vacations for year after year had it not been for you taking the time to teach us how to use this membership effectively to meet what we were looking for. And to me, that's the greatest satisfaction.
It really is, because for a lot of people, it forces them to put Disney as a priority into their budget, like to pay for the contract, to pay for the dues. And so it forces like prioritization of family time. To me, it's one of the most noble products and things that you can sell, because you're literally selling lifetime events and memories. And that's why I feel good about creating the content that I do. I know I help people in my ways make that decision without being a licensed realtor and all that other kind of fun stuff. And we build a community that helps people do that. And it's yeah, it's I'm to the point where my parents are looking kind of like they're at the end of life's journey, and that's not going to be too far away. Hopefully it's far away, but it's still looking like it's something that's got to be on the top of our minds. And looking back, my favorite memories with them were all trips to Disney. Like top of my list right there. So I look at it like what Andy does, what I do. We help people build those awesome lifetime memories, those core memories. If we could go back to inside out talk, right? That's kind of my thing. And
thanks for asking that question, Frank.
Yeah, that's a great question. And Call Me Lanny is saying a brand new, not a rethemed old Encanto ride that went through the casita with all the bedrooms would be pretty sweet. He agrees. Yeah, because what we're hearing is they're going to build an Animal Kingdom and build it around the guy who talks to animals and kind of get you go through their, casita and an adventure with him is what we're hearing rumors of as well. So I think it has the opportunity to be awesome. And then, so what's our thought on the new Poly Tower? People have been saying it's not themed enough, and it does look a little lighter themed than I would like. I'm not going to lie, but it's by no stretch of the imagination a run of the mill. Like I heard it called Poly Day Inn, and like those lobby pictures, like that just busted that concept right there. You know what I'm saying? It is very elegant. It is very upscale, and it is definitely has a Polynesian flair to it. Is it as awesome as Aulani? I don't think so.
No.
Like, I don't think it's on the scale and awesomeness of Aulani, but there's very few people that can hang with Joe Rohde. Like, let's just call that one like it is. Like, it was Joe Rohde doing a resort on the land that he grew up on. Right, because he's from Hawaii, so like I that's why I still think Aulani is my favorite resort out there, and and I'm going back there in 2 months, so sometime in July. I've got my count up here. Let me tell you. So it is Aulani for me, 54 days. So got my little countdown going. Yeah.
Less than 2 months.
Yeah. So is it light on the theme? Yeah, it's a little light compared to the rest of the resort, but it's still going to be pretty awesome. I'm excited about it. And I want to buy points there. I just don't think I can pull it off with everything going on. And what do you think of the tiny room trend with these mini studios? I think it's a positive thing. And based on the fact that they are selling out faster than anything else in the resort, they look to be incredibly popular, Jen. And the availability on those duo studios is just like gone. And I've got some booked at the 11-month mark at Disneyland Tower, and I looked a day later to modify it. Nothing's there. So yeah, I think they're awesome. I think they're a great thing. Anytime we can add something new to the mix without really taking something away, I think it's a win-win because it's just making your product and offerings more diverse. And we've got more choices and more options. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So AP wants to know what's the effect on insurance rate increases as it relates to DVC. I think it's going to be very minimal. A large insurance rate is still going to be very minimal in the overall budget of things and what it's going to come down to on a per point per due, because there's so much other expenses in terms of boats and electricity and transportation and buses and staff and cleaning and all of that other kind of fun stuff that's just baked into our dues. I don't think insurance rates are going to be all that big of a deal.
Yeah, great.
And I do know like some of the oceanfront ones have got surcharges in their dues from like hurricane surcharges where they've had to meet high deductibles, and well, the owner's got to pay for that. So we'll start to see those dues come down if they don't have any more hurricanes jacket it way back up. But it should be pretty minimal. And what's the DVC resort you just don't jive with or think it's overrated? For him, it's Poly. Okay. Well, I know. I've got a correction talk for you when we sit down at Sanaa there, Jared. So I'll have to share you the ways on that one. For me, it's changed over time. It used to be I didn't like Animal Kingdom, and we stayed there on our very first resort. And over time, it has grown on me to the point where I think it's a darling gem in the DVC system because there's no other timeshare on the planet that you can come to and have a giraffe right outside your room. Like it's just such a unique thing. So I'm not a huge fan of Beach Club or of Boardwalk. And I think that one's overrated, but I get why people like it for its location. For me, I'd rather be at Beach Club. And that's where I fall on that debate. But yeah, it's a great question. Andy, is there any resorts out there that just doesn't resonate too well with you?
Well, for me, it's kind of hard because the one that jumps out in my mind is Animal Kingdom, and for a different reason, because we had an opportunity to go to South Africa and see the animals in their natural habitat. So, I mean, I enjoy going to Animal Kingdom and seeing it, but I know I've seen better. So
Okay.
it's a tough comment for me to make, but
given that explanation, Andy, we can still be friends. Okay.
Yeah.
Because then we're fighting words.
I honestly don't think that there's any of them that are overrated. I really don't. I enjoy certain aspects of each of the resorts. It's just that's the beauty of it. You can go and I mean, you could go for a 10-day trip to Walt Disney World and have a different experience each night if you stayed at a different resort.
Yeah.
And that to me, I think that's the beauty of the membership.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really
I'd be
good.
interested to learn what does Jared think what doesn't jive with Jared and what does he think is overrated?
Yeah.
He's
What
in
about
Poly.
Poly isn't there? I could get the same argument applies to Poly because I've heard that before. Is because I kind of think of Poly as the poor man's Alani. It's kind of kitschy. Because like once you've been to Alani and you've seen legitimate Polynesian culture done with Disney theming to the nines, and then you go back to Poly, you're like, it's not quite. It's kind of like you and going to the real Savannah, right?
Yep.
I mean, I've seen the largest, stayed in Alani, which is the largest collection of Polynesian art that's out there. Like it's there. Like it's done well to that level. And yeah, so Poly is just kind of kitschy on that. I still love it. Okay. And I still want more points there. So, yep. And this is a good question for you, Andy. And we're getting to the point where we're at the hour marks. We probably need to start like wrapping this up here soon. But how do you think Disneyland Villas is affecting the sales price demand on the resale at the Grand California?
So when it first came out last March, April, May, the Grand Cal prices were just going through the roof, 300 plus. Now they've simmered down to the 240 to 260 level, which is reasonable. And I would always prefer, and Chad, you know this, I always prefer to stay at the Grand California than the New Disneyland Villas. There's such a unique experience being able to wake up and roll out and go to the park right away without having to walk. There's only 3 destinations around the world you could do that. It's the Grand Cal, Disneyland Hotel in Paris, and the Miracosta Hotel in Tokyo Disney Sea. Only 3 resorts in the world you can stay at the hotel or stay at the resort and literally be in the theme park in about a minute or 2.
Yeah, for a Disney one.
Yep.
There's some others out there. I know Cedar Point has some.
Yeah, sure.
The new Epic Universe is building the Grand Helios Hotel. But yeah, I'm with you 100%, Andy. I think we had such high hopes for Disneyland Tower. And then when it came out with the resale restrictions, it came out with the transient taxes, with no parking. The market just went, no, thank you. I want Grand Cal. And it shot back up. And now it's coming back down to reality.
Yeah.
And it's still more expensive to buy resale Grand Cal than it is Disneyland Tower direct. But I'm with you. For me, my plan is to book the Disneyland Tower at the 11-month on my home resort advantage and then be there at a wait list at 8 a.m. to switch over to Grand Cal if it's available at the 7-month mark. That's because this way I'm guaranteed I'm going to Disneyland. I am going to Disneyland one way or the other.
That's
right?
That's a good approach too.
Yeah. And then that's kind of, it's because they're direct points. I can do that. Right. So that's kind of my take on it. And
I tell everybody that philosophy. If you know you want to go to, if you own at Walt Disney World and you want to go there every year, whatever, pick the month, always book your home resort at the 11-month window. And then switch it at the 7-month window. It's easier to do that than to call somebody and say, I can never get my home resort. And well, when is that? Well, I try to make it at the 6.5-month window.
Yeah. No. And that's part of the reasons why people say they're not a Walt Disney World family. They might want to own one contract here for just the 11-month window for when they want to come here.
Yeah.
Or if they want to come to run Disney weekends here, you need an 11-month window here. Probably at Saratoga or one of the easier to book resorts, but you still want that for, it depends on your use cases, right? And so Ron's saying, not one single memory. You guys nailed it. Being able to provide lifetime memories with and for your family is absolutely priceless. And I think,
great way to say it.
Yeah, DVC, for whatever reasons, it puts it within reach of the average family. They can now grab hold of it where they might not have been able to prioritize their budget to pull it off if they didn't have DVC. But it definitely prioritizes it and makes it happen. And I think it allows you to stay in a deluxe resort for a value plus or moderate level.
A fraction of the cost.
Yeah, I think it allows you to get that little step up over time. If you're a longtime member, that the value math will work there.
And in 10 years from now, when those rooms are on a cash basis, $600 or $650 or $700 for a studio, now you're looking at $5,000 per week just for the hotel room.
Yeah. Yep. And Frank says, fun fact, Andy called me on my cell phone when I was sitting in the pool at Addonitis to let me know a Boardwalk Villas contract offer was accepted, and Jody is his agent. And they cover for each other like that, right, Andy?
All we do.
Yeah.
We're team players, team sport.
Yep. But I mean, what better news can you get when you're in the Addonitis pool? Call me with some good news like that when I'm in the Addonitis pool. I'll take it. And Jen says, I like adding to the variety of the room layouts. More choices equals great. So that was a follow-up to her question on the Duo Studios.
Yeah.
And Frank says, where's the best spreadsheet or app to track points usage with multiple use years in resorts? I don't think there is one. I've had this argument with people in the past. And so our friend Pete over at DVC Help, they have a partner and they have you can actually log on to DVC website, dvchelp.com, and get into some point management tools over there. I've never seen the need for it because I can just plan it out, and it's not like it's super complicated enough that I can't do it in my head and just say, hey, I'm banking these points to go here and this, and can't touch those. Like I knew for the last year and a half since they announced this Poly Tower that I was going to save whatever my Poly points were. Because the last time I've used the Poly points, I rented out something about a year and a half ago to DVC Rental Store. And I booked some points, and I was like, okay, the remaining of those Poly points are there for when that tower opens. And I just mentally knew that and earmarked it that way and didn't need a spreadsheet for it. But maybe that's me. But I get there's a level of nerdy people that love spreadsheets and love tracking it. And I think if you go over to dvchelp.com, his partner Steve is, your spirit animal over there, and they'll have some good stuff for you. And Gillian says, I booked a stay at Kidani because I couldn't get Jumbo. When I walked into Kidani, I immediately knew I was home. Welcome home isn't just a catchphrase. It's like there's a DVC resort for everyone. I agree with you, Gillian, 1,000%. And
different experience at each resort.
Yeah, it truly is. And I like the rooms better in 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms at Kidani than I do Jumbo, but I like the Grand Villas better at Jumbo, the lobby better at Jumbo, and the restaurants. I'm still sticking with Sanaa. Okay.
I'll take Boma any day.
But yeah. When Dave Kluver is in town, I know I'm going to Boma. So like, it's just like some things are just like a given, you know. It's yeah. And Jared saying no playground, elevators are really small. We prefer the one building tower. Bay Lake is the one that really grew on me as well.
It's my home resort.
Yeah. And Gillian saying, I hope they do a fire sale at VDH like they did Grand Flow. I want Disneyland points.
5 years from now, maybe.
Yeah, maybe when it gets close to selling it out, it's I think they'll put a fire sale on, and then they'll go the other extreme, and whatever, if you didn't buy in the fire sale, now you're paying full retail for the last 4 or 5% of the resort. And Jen saying, what's the cons of boardwalk villas? I was thinking this for my next trip. The biggest one I can think of is if you're a 2-bedroom family, they're next to impossible to get because they're all lock-off units. There is no dedicated 2 bedrooms there. So if you want a 2-bedroom at Boardwalk, you're fighting with the studio people to get a room. It really is that bad. And those studios are like gone in 60 seconds at the 7-month mark. They're super, super hot and popular. So trying to get a 2-bedroom there is not that great. Getting a 1-bedroom there is pretty doable. Studios are kind of a rough. And then the other big thing, I call this room layout, and they use the same floor plan for Boulder Ridge, Beach Club, Boardwalk, and Saratoga, where you've got this weird angled bathrooms, and it's mainly into the 1-bedroom side. But I call that the Beverly of DVC. And because it's just so oddly shaped that it is like, you gotta like love it, but it's an acquired taste to love. So that's the downsides, I think, to Boardwalk. But for staying there, you got great walking distance to Hollywood. You got great walking distance to Epcot. The boat ride's not that long. All right. Yeah, you could take a boat to either of them. The bus ride's not that long to Animal Kingdom. It's not that long to Magic Kingdom. It's a very, very central resort location here on Walt Disney World property. You cannot beat the location there. It's right off of World Drive and right off of Buena Vista Drive. And like those are the 2 main intersections of Walt Disney World, and you are right there. So it's just a great location. And AP says, you guys hit the nail on the head with Aulani. It is gorgeous. I am part Hawaiian, and Disney did Aulani the right way. If they built Poly here, it would never get off the ground. No, they would, the locals there wouldn't put up with it. They can't even bring Lilo into like Aulani because the locals would just like go off the charts. They do not like Lilo. They're pretty cool with Stitch because he's based on the Menehune concept, right? But Lilo, no. Yeah, she doesn't fly there as well. And okay, so this is our last question of the night. And Anna says, when you go to Disneyland, what's your first must-do ride thing or restaurant? Andy, do you have one?
I do 2 things. I always like Toy Story Mania. And it's going to sound funny, but Earl's sandwich, I always love there.
Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah.
Earl is my go-to.
Yeah. Earl on arrival day, departure day, Earl is my jam, right? And yes, that is my go-to every single. One of the things I do is like, I like DCA is my favorite park in the US by far. So I'm always starting my trip at DCA. And so I'm rope dropping Radiator Springs Racers.
Yep.
And early access hours, I'm getting in, I'm rope dropping it. And then when I get into it, I'm going to come back in and grab a lightning lane for it. So I can time the lightning lane so I can get it and ride it at night via the lightning lane. That's how I'm playing that card. And
if you're going to go there, Blue Bayou is a phenomenal restaurant too, if you can get a reservation.
See, I thought that was kind of overrated in my opinion. I do not like eating in the dark. And to me, you're eating in the dark, and didn't care for it. So it was a one and done for me. But yeah, okay. Well, that pretty much wraps up our show for tonight. Andy, what do you think? We'll be back next month, kind of near the end of the month.
Count me in.
Yeah.
Well, this is fun to do. I like to, it keeps us in touch with what the community is thinking. What's on the community members' minds.
Yeah, just so you guys know, we're modifying our live formats a little bit because we're trying to rebuild our group and our followings over here on YouTube, because I know if you subscribe on YouTube, you can hit the notifications bell. You're going to get the notifications whenever we go live, and it's going to happen, and you're going to be able to see our content, and it's not going to be buried from you, because we can't get it into the Facebook groups anymore is like we could before. So please, youtube.com/MyDVCPoints, hit that subscribe button, and you will never miss out on any of our shows. I can guarantee you that as well. So Andy, thank you so much for joining us. Huge shout out and thanks to all of our sponsors over at World of DVC, and throw your little logo up there. They are sponsoring our show, and I should have probably led with that as well. They sponsor every episode. We just have an agreement with them that they're the ad read for whatever show, and I try to work in some kind of an ad read for them on every single show that's pertinent to the content, so that it kind of fits in and it's organic. When I have one of their staff members on, I kind of go light on the ad read, because I feel like we've got one here. And, I'm giving you guys really great exposure to Andy, an introduction to him. So let me come back in, and following up with you, Andy, it is Andy at dvcresalemarket.com, 949-412-0850. That is his cell phone. And he's available, guys. If you got questions, email, text, call, whatever, however, send a smoke signal, however you guys want to do it.
And we'll be up again next week doing our monthly update show, market analysis.
Yeah. So next week we'll be back doing our monthly market update show, and coming back in and going over those prices. If you guys want to go shopping with Andy and get both of our opinion on screen, send me a note at mydvcpoint@gmail.com. We've got some opportunities coming up to join us on that as well. So you guys can kind of come back in, ask your questions, and get more of a feel for what it's like to work with him one-on-one. I think I give you guys a pretty good idea of it, but we're going to go through and we're going to cherry pick some contracts next time. And
cool.
That will be here in some really good deals. So yeah, dvcresalemarket.com. And thanks everybody for tuning in. And also a huge shout out and thanks to our Patreon.
Talk to you soon.
Okay. Yeah. Good night, everybody.